really comes from the idea that that a lot of the weaker things in life that are often overlooked are ultimately, where we should be putting a lot of our attention. So I think that kind of have this backward theme to the whole album. Like each song takes a common idea and flips it upside down. And Powerless actually comes from a song called Upside Down Kingdom, where we're talking about simplicity being greater than excess. So like living a life, a simple life rather than chasing material gain. As one example, which I think is very applicable to Western culture for sure. It seems like that's what we're taught growing up, is that the more you have, the better your life will be. True. The song lyrically really had a lot to do with the religious part of society. That I think in a time where the economy is tough and all that, they tend to say, oh, well, just worry about the afterlife. Just focus on your hope there. But I think that if you really look at the message of hope that Christ himself gave, it was about, okay, well, yes, of course, we look forward to heaven, but if you live the way that God has designed life to be here now, that this whole life doesn't have to be full of suffering. He offered, on earth as it is in heaven. So I think that, like, especially, when times are tough, the people that need to lead the way are the people that claim, to follow the teachings of Jesus. Sure. It's hard to focus on, individually what you need to do when you're trying to look at the big picture as a producer. And so, for me, I actually am much more proud of my personal performance than I've ever been on an album, and I think that has to do with the fact that from the first moment we started recording, that's all I had to focus on. And Adam's a good friend of ours, somebody we're very comfortable with, and we know he views things very similarly to the way we view them anyway. So I think, musically speaking, that is, so I think that it just makes it a comfortable situation, where like I said, we just work on our own performances. This is the most proud I've ever been of a CD of ours, and I think that we can never make all of our fans happy. There's always the fans that wish we sounded just like 2 CDs ago or 3 CDs ago, and then there's of course fans that think, oh, well, in order for me to stay interested, you got to drastically change, and you got to, I think progress is really important to keep a fan base interested. If a fan just keeps putting out the exact same CD, to me, I tend to lose interest, when bands just kind of recreate themselves. But to us, it's like progress enough without shocking our original fan base. And I think that's what we've always tried to do. Just while our music is pretty complex, each individual riff is a lot to wrap your head around. The structure of the songs themselves are already pretty a standard structure. I wouldn't say that completely completely radio, where it's just like first chorus, but there is always something that kind of repeats throughout the song to give it a memorable factor. The house, when I first got married, we moved into a house, and I had the studio just kind of like, we were writing ideas, and I wanted to record all of our rehearsals so that we could get, we could sort through and find the best 10 songs or however many we're going to make the album. And then next thing we knew, that studio just kept growing and growing and growing. And then once we recorded Notion Between Us, a couple albums ago, we realized, my wife and I realized that, okay, well, now this isn't so much a house, it's kind of like more of a studio than a house. And so eventually we moved out, and the entire house became a studio. Okay. And so, there are actually 2 separate locations now, which works for my sanity. Sure. I've actually in the past worked with Metal Blade to essentially be like an A&R guy or label representative for a couple bands that they released. That was just kind of like a little taste for me to get an idea of like what it takes to do a label. But I think through that whole experience, I realized, okay, well, I enjoyed working with the couple bands I've worked with, but between all that I've got going on in the studio and Austrian Death Machine and Nazareth Dying and everything, I just don't think that if something's got to give, I think that's the aspect that I would drop.
Sure. How hard would it be for a person to go an extra 9 yards, though, and actually have their own label? If they got their studio, I know that's not necessarily all you need. You need distributors and connections and stuff like that. Once you got that, what more do you really need? Except for money to finance the CD.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I think, though, that working with people who have the experience, like for me, if I was doing a label, it'd probably take me 2 or 3 times as much work to do what somebody's experienced, like the sales team at Metal Blade, has been working with distributors for almost 30 years at this point, so they have a long history with that. But for me, I'd have to be making 5 times as many phone calls as they would just to do something very simple.
Sure. Not to mention, it would have to be a huge financial gamble.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the day and age where kids ain't buying music, they're stealing it.
Yep.
And you invest $30,000 into a band, to put out the CD, and when you get your money back, or where you lose. And I know that, and sometimes there's a lot more money involved in than just $30,000. You have to 6 figures to really push the CD correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what type of band they are. If the band's big enough to where it makes sense to spend the money, then it's easy to spend over $100,000. But even for instance with our band, it's like Shadows Our Security is historically the album that's sold the most, and I think An Ocean Between Us is on track to eventually surpass that. But if you were to take, based on how much the overall CD market is down in this day and age, if you were to apply that to, like, if that album had come out 10 years ago, it actually would have been a gold record 10 years ago. But now, it's not quite there, and I don't know if it ever will get there. But you could sign a band that's in your opinion good enough to have a gold record, they might not ever get it. So. Yeah, we're actually shooting it in the end of this week while on tour. So
this weekend you're going to be shooting?
Yeah, we do 2 nights in a row in Pittsburgh because it's a venue there that we've sold out the last couple times we've been through. So we decided to do 2 nights in a row in Pittsburgh, and so the second night, since we're there, we don't have to travel. We got a whole free day pretty much to shoot a video.
Okay. Which song is it? You want to say here?
No, yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet, so maybe I'll hold it for now.
Okay, we'll let you off on it.
The only certainty you can gauge, because Headbangers Ball, it might not even be on air in a few months. It's on at 2 or 3 in the morning on a Monday night or something. It's like
it used to be Saturday prime time.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that when we make a video now, or at least for this new album, we're going to make a handful of videos, but I think that they're all going to be at least budgeted under the impression that the majority of this is going to be seen online. So, the good news is for a lot of smaller bands, they get a chance to be seen. They don't have to wait for their video to debut on Headbangers Ball. They can be seen on YouTube or MySpace or wherever the video is hosted right away. For a band who's gotten to a similar level to us, I think it's a little frustrating to know that, okay, well, previous videos, really, we got our money's worth a lot more on, 5 years ago when we first started making videos,
Sure.
So, well, personally, it doesn't make me take any more or less pride in what we do, because I think that my sense of accomplishment for what we've done has to do with maybe a different guidelines than awards and Grammy nominations and things like that. But I think for people like our record label and our parents and people that have really supported us for a long time, they supported us, I think, from an outside position. It's almost like an award or nomination that we could give to them to be able to say, okay, like, look, here's like a very tangible way, that you can clearly see that the band has gone to a new level. But for me, it doesn't change the way I view the band at all. So.